I've never heard of Palestine. At least I didn't until like a year ago. I wasn't raised Jewish. My family isn't Jewish. So to me, October 7th kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. And it wasn't until I started looking into it that I realized that it didn't come out of nowhere. This has been happening for the last 80 years. So I wanted to go over a history of Israel in case there's anyone out there who, like me, had no idea what was going on. For the sake of this video, let's start at the end of World War II. In 1947, the United Nations got together with the goal of creating a home for Jewish people. The UN voted and agreed that they would use portions of land in Palestine to make a Jewish state. It's worth mentioning that Palestine did not have a say in this. They were not a voting member of UN, so this just happened to them without them having any say in it. After the land partitions were agreed in Palestine, armies moved in to forcibly remove all of the Palestinians that were living on the land that was meant for a Jewish state. In 1948, 750,000 Palestinians were kicked out of their homes to make room for a Jewish state. Palestinians call this event the catastrophe, or in their words, the Nakba. Around this same time, Israel formally declared itself a country. Almost immediately, the Israeli armies started to try to take land away from the Palestinians, moving into the areas that the UN had set aside for an Arab state. The only areas that they weren't able to capture were the West Bank, which was an area at that time controlled by the Jordanian government, and the Gaza Strip, which was controlled by the Egyptian government. Jordan and Egypt were able to maintain control of these specific areas until 1967, when Israel launched an assault on both the West Bank and Gaza to capture these lands from the different governments. This point in time is called the Six-Day War. Israel was largely successful. They were able to annex the West Bank from the Jordanian government, and they were able to capture Gaza from the Egyptian government. At this point, the UN is pissed because now the Palestinians have no land. So they immediately passed a resolution that essentially said that Israel was supposed to get out of the West Bank and also Gaza, something that Israel did not do. This went on for 7 more years until in 1974, the UN finally recognized the Palestinian Liberation Organization as the official government of Palestine. Israel did not like this move, so they sought to undermine the Palestinian government. So what they did was they started funding different political organizations inside of the West Bank and Gaza in an attempt to have a destabilized government within Palestine. I want you to remember this because this is very important and it does come back to bite Israel later. So even though the UN recognized the Palestinian government and told Israel to get out of the West Bank and Gaza, Israel still continued to send people into Palestinian land as settlers to go capture land from the Palestinians and live there. The Palestinians eventually revolted against the Israeli government in a huge uprising, or in their words, an intifada. In 1987, the first intifada happened. Palestinians revolted against the Israeli government and tried to take back their land from the Israelis. In response to this, the United States tried to broker peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis in what are called the Oslo Accords. But once again, Israel refused to abide by the Oslo Accords and continued to occupy Palestinian land. I think you're kind of getting a theme here. So in 2000, a second uprising happened, a second intifada. But this time, one of the governments that Israel had been funding to undermine the Palestinian Liberation Authority actually succeeded in kicking out Israel from Gaza. That political organization calls themselves Hamas. Israel literally funded Hamas in hopes of undermining the current Palestinian government. Israel hated this. So what they did was they blockaded all of Gaza. They restricted all movement in and out of Gaza. They built a wall around the entirety of the West Bank and monitored all the civilians that were living in there. They restricted who went in and out and what food goes in and out. This starvation of Gazans hasn't just been happening since October 7th. It's been happening for the last 17 years. And that brings us to today, where Gazans are still being starved by the Israeli government. Movement in and out of the West Bank and Gaza is severely restricted. Israeli settlers are still going onto Palestinian land and taking it for themselves and kicking out the Palestinians. This isn't a war. This is a brutal, well-funded army launching full-scale assaults on civilians, all while using your American tax dollars. The Palestinians have a right to live in peace. Israel is systematically cleansing Palestinians from their homeland to try to take it for themselves. They are committing a genocide. We, as American citizens, can no longer accept American politicians defending Israel. This must end.